Hi, everybody. I'm Dorian Vee. I'm co-founder, CTO of Emerza. I have with me Ayanna Wiggins.
I am the Director of Global Residential Marketing at Marriott International, overseeing projects in our branded residences business.
There we go. A bit about Emerza. Emerza was actually evolved out of an architecture firm. So our roots are in the design field. We began working with Unreal Engine probably in 2011, I think, building tools to help the design process. And what happened was our clients started bringing their potential buyers in, started closing multi-million-dollar residences, and we realized, okay, yeah, something's really working on the marketing side here. And that's what really launched Emerza as its own company. Since then, we've probably built probably upwards of 150 now Unreal projects across the globe. We've been fortunate that we've been able to work with some of the top projects and top developers across the globe as well.
So in our branded residences business, we work closely with third-party real estate developers who have signed license agreements with us to sell luxury branded residences at a premium using our name and marks. We are the world's largest branded residences company, outpacing our competitors, and we have both luxury and premium brands within our portfolio. So we have a little of something for every type of buyer seeking very specific lifestyles. Here, we're providing just a high-level overview of our brand portfolio. We currently have 16 residential brand extensions. Most people are aware of the Ritz-Carlton residences or St. Regis residences. But as you see at the bottom, we have many of our premium brands that also have a residential component. And like I said, we have, different buyers have different needs, and depending on their propensity to certain brands, we want to make sure that they can have access to the lifestyles that they seek. Right now, we have nearly 225 properties that are either open or in our pipeline. And we're in 42 countries and territories. We have a diverse residential portfolio. Most people are familiar with residences that are co-located with the hotel, but we also have standalone residences where it's just a condominium building, but our owners, they still get the lifestyle and all of the perks that they would receive if the residences were co-located with a hotel. We have a dedicated residential team that's there to serve them, so it's totally separate from a hotel team. That dedicated residential team is there to enliven the dream for them. So they work with the third-party real estate developers during the sales engagement process. The sales team sold the dream, and now our dedicated residential team are making the dream come true and helping them to realize that their investment was worth it. We also have residences that are part of mixed-use developments where there may also be retail and commercial office space. We provide, our residential marketing team provides best-in-class sales and marketing support. We have projects in the US, Caribbean, Latin America, Asia, Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And so we have dedicated residential marketing staff that's there to cater to the needs of the developer and their sales and marketing team. And some of the things that we're working on as we are onboarding those developers and getting them up to speed on our brands so that they can properly sell them and be great brand ambassadors, we're helping them to build out appropriate sales centers because we want to make sure that the brand, the essence of the brand is pulled through at every touch point. We're also working with our developers to help them tap into our Marriott Bonvoy database. I know just this week I've met quite a few people who indicated that they are Marriott Bonvoy loyalists, and maybe we have a few in the audience right now. So what we're doing is helping those developers reach a very targeted buyer. We want to make sure that they have a propensity for the brand that the developer is selling, but also that these loyalists can actually afford to purchase a residence. Most residences, there are some within our portfolio that run from 800,000 up, but typically we're seeing residential sales from 1 million plus above, with penthouse residences being 20 million plus.
Yeah, and Marriott's, in addition to just being a huge global brand, they're really tech forward and really trying to bring the most tech to their real estate developers as possible. And a couple years, it was about a year and a half ago, we realized that we are talking an awful lot on the same projects over and over again. And we realized, yep, let's just go ahead and make this official. And so Emerza and Marriott teamed up we are Marriott's preferred vendor for everything experiential tech and visualization. Couple images of some projects. And I'm going to go into just a bit about a bit of where things were and where things are. So in 2012, a typical visualization scope for a project like this was a handful of renderings and a marketing video, and that's what they had to sell for the next couple of years. Because of Unreal Engine and just how much you're able to generate out of it, that scope now is hundreds of renderings, multiple animations, experiential tech, web-based VR tours, headset, Oculus, HMD-based stuff. So it's quite different. Our typical scope on a project, we will consult with both Marriott and the developer as to what we'd suggest for the project and the scope. We'll do the Unreal Engine development. Sometimes it'll be a mixed media thing where we're even introducing some virtual production tech into the sales process. Also software and back-end engineering, and then all the marketing content, which tends to be a lot nowadays. All of that kind of breaks into essentially two phases. There's a design phase and then the sales and marketing phase. Here's some video of just some of the sorts of things that we're doing in the design phase, where we are doing things like traffic, crowd, pedestrian simulations based on data, pulling in data from traffic studies, adjusting that sort of stuff on the fly. We're pulling in, again, this is AI-based crowd simulation, emergency vehicle access, even operational sort of stuff, testing rideshare, valet operations. And projects keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, which I'll dive into some of that in a second. Yeah, even testing hydraulics, stuff like that, where we're reducing cost in the building by reducing canopies and testing if we can still get somebody from garage A to location B, keep them dry, and shave a chunk of money off the project. And we are aggregating all this data into the engine, into one model. And of course, being able to test value engineering options. This is a hotel in Orlando, Florida, where they went through a ton of different facade options. Um, and on the marketing side of things, I'll let that go for a bit. But on the marketing side of things, everything that we've done in the design phase then carries through to the marketing phase. So from our client's perspective, it really increases the ROI of doing work like this, because for essentially the same amount of money, they're getting really two uses out of something. So just a handful of different marketing center tech, everything from touch screens to iPad apps to LED walls to projection mapping, and marketing centers are getting more and more advanced. All of that's then also, as Ayanna was just mentioning, all that's tied back to inventory and inventory databases, and we're able to pull metrics off of what people are using, how many times they're opening it, so the sales team can do things like, hey, why is this package not selling? Oh, it's because the sales team isn't showing it. And being able to have that sort of feedback off the data has been pretty important. So we're going to take two case studies. On the concept and design side of things, we're going to look at the Edition Edgewater, and on the marketing side, we're going to touch on Ritz-Carlton Estero. In the concept and design phase, things that people care about, is conceptual design, getting city approvals, schematic design. That's typically when Marriott's coming in and giving their initial approvals. Then we'll go through design development, and that's when Marriott's global design team comes in and gives their final sign-off. It's a lot of edits and a lot of changes, and to be able to do that efficiently, we really needed to evolve a continuous design process, and we use a couple different pipelines to do that. For for everything not about the building itself or any designed data, we're using Houdini through Houdini Engine, pushing that into Unreal Engine. And then for the architecture and the building architecture, we are actually passing everything through BIM 360 to normalize all the data for us. That goes in through Datasmith and then out into Unreal Engine. And it's all about reducing manual effort and trying to get that to as automated of a process as we can possibly make it. On the Houdini side of things, we have invested pretty heavily into tools to make our developers' lives a lot easier. One of the things I think everybody in the AEC industry in Unreal deals with is just lots of really messy CAD files. And so one of the things we tackled first was cleaning up CAD in Houdini. It allows us to serialize everything, attach data to things, close polygons, merge vertices, and results in something nice and clean and something we can actually deal with and then start attaching different pieces of data to. So even in levels like this, we're attaching direction and data to each of these streets and these nodes, and we can say, okay, well, this segment is a 25-meter right-of-way, and this segment's a 50-meter right-of-way, and then model all of that procedurally. That's all then built through Houdini and Houdini Engine, and our artists assemble a kit of parts for a project. Once all that data is prepped in the engine, they can just generate and regenerate over and over pretty quickly. Same goes for buildings and context buildings. Based on massing, we generate context buildings for different typologies. We'll have, for any given project, we'll have, again, essentially a mod kit of building pieces that the team can then generate off of simple massings in Unreal Engine. You can pick the kit, hit generate, and you've got a building. So at this phase of the project, typically people, what they care about for getting city approvals and things like that are the public realm, entrances, egress, access, parking, and in this case, in cases like this, we're setting up things to test different options, show different options. This is the garage screen that went through a ton of different iterations and styles, and we're pushing this to a pixel streaming build that both our client and their partners can jump in, play with, test these options, and then choose what to show to the city. And from Marriott's perspective, at this stage of the game, once we're through schematic design, that's when global design really comes in and starts looking at the brand standards, the guest and resident experience, and all the amenities. And you can probably touch on the rigorousness of working with global design.
Yes, so at every aspect of Marriott International, we have robust review and approval processes in place. So our global design organization is ensuring that our brand standards are being pulled through, and that's to ensure product differentiation. Because like I said, we have just within the residential business, 16 brand extensions. But again, if you're a Marriott loyalist, Marriott Bonvoy loyalist, you know that we have 30 plus brands within our hotel portfolio worldwide. But yeah, so global design is working very closely with the developers at this stage. And so there are a lot of iterations of renderings coming through. And one of the great things about, I believe, project teams working with Emerza is that once they get those renderings right and global design is signed off on them, that's where the magic happens, because our buyers, this is all they have at this stage of the development for the project. When there's just the vision about the project.
And they're doing initial marketing and whisper campaigns and things like that. Even before, usually at this stage of the game, we're not even doing final finishes and units yet, and we're just doing rough layouts on units. And we'll typically do a really quick, essentially a massing model that allows the team to go through it, catch errors, catch big whoops moments, like what happened on this project, which I think comes up here in a second, where you realize you've got a toilet in a window facing another building, and yeah, that's maybe not great, and you don't catch things like that in a plan. But here we're really not paying attention to rendering quality or really finishes. It's all about the unit layout and how the thing lives. And it gives Marriott Global Design Team a chance to, really say, okay, is this, for this brand, is this the lifestyle we're really conveying, or we want to convey for this project? I think this is where, this is definitely it, yeah. So you've got the adjacent towers and, everybody watching you. So typically at the end of this phase, we've compiled all these assets. We're pretty far along in the project, and now we're getting ready to head into marketing phase. Again, because Unreal Engine allows you just an infinite amount of output, creating videos like this is really just simple. All right, so now moving into the marketing phase of stuff. Here, it's all about sales and marketing. They care about hero renderings, animations, videos, walkthroughs, and the sales center tech. You can talk a bit about your guys' marketing life cycle.
Okay, so yes, this, let's see, let's go to the next one. So here, I just wanted to call out our key stakeholders as it relates to our branded residences business. So obviously at the top here, we have Marriott as the owner operator of the brand. We have our buyers who are in the market for this luxury branded experience. And then, of course, none of this would be possible without our third-party licensee developers, as I mentioned, who they pay us a license fee to use our name and marks to sell the residences. And one of our jobs as a company, as Marriott International, is to continue to seek opportunities to provide additional value to our developers because they are investing a lot of money in these projects. So we're giving them opportunities to tap into our channels again to reach our loyalists because we do have so many brands. So once the residential marketing license agreement is signed, we then get into this cycle. So first we're starting at the top during phase one, where we're educating them on the brand that they're selling. Obviously, because we have so many brands, we want to make sure that they understand, who that target buyer is, what the brand values are, and again, so that their sales team, when they are engaging with prospective buyers, they can speak to the brand and keep our brands elevated. One thing that I didn't mention is that although you see our name and our brands attached to these projects, we are not marketing, developing, or selling, and we always want to make sure that our developers are making that clear to their buyers that Marriott is not, we're not the developer, we're not co-partners. Because from time to time, buyers, once they get to the contract phase, for different reasons, they want to pull out of their contracts. And they will sue the developers for different reasons. And of course, because our name is attached to the projects, they're going to sue us as well. So the goal is for us to not, have to go through that full legal process because we've made it clear through disclaimers that we're not developing here. So, did I?
No, I might have hit that.
Okay.
Go.
So the next stage is lead generation, and like I said, we're giving developers opportunities to tap into our databases so that again they can hopefully reach the right target audience to sell these residences. And we know that our Bonvoy database is powerful because there have been times when we've deployed email marketing campaigns strictly promoting the residences. We can deploy a campaign on a Friday. The developer and their project team is emailing us 2 days later saying, we got so many leads from that, and we actually sold 3 residences just from that one campaign. That may not seem like a lot in the grand scheme of things, but it really is, and it makes the developers really happy. So we're always looking for these opportunities. And then we move into project awareness. So that's the piece where we come in, and although we're not technically marketing for the developer, we are always seeking opportunities to bring awareness to our portfolio. We, like for example, we've engaged a PR agency to help us keep Marriott branded residences top of mind for consumers. And then we also have different strategies that we tap into to enliven project awareness. And then it's the full cycle of tapping into different communication platforms.
Yeah, and all of these assets tend to pull into all of those different channels. From a marketing side of things, or for a specific project, now what people care about are residence layouts, interior design, finish selections, and pulling all of that into a project in Unreal. They're able to cycle through all of these different options really quickly, see it all. From a project setup perspective, again, we've written a lot of tools internally to make that process as easy as possible for our artists and developers, being able to tie into the residence data, automatically setting where cameras are and where they're looking from a build perspective, that comes in and allows, the buyers to see what's available, see what's sold. From interiors, again, setting up, it's all about, automation for us and trying to make things as automated as possible. Placing, points of interest, camera locations, even on the video side of things, setting it up so that we have auto camera paths based off the size of the unit, and once those are placed in the level, it generates camera paths similar to this. Which they can then, either play in real time, export through sequencer, or
And one of
even
the
take images straight from here.
And one of the great things, again, about this option for developers to be able to leverage this technology is that at the start of the pandemic, we saw a trend in buyers seeking second and third homes, and tapping into or looking for branded residences for this purpose. They were looking for residences with space where they could live, work, and play. They were looking for larger balconies. So, and because we were in this lockdown period, this was an excellent opportunity for a prospective buyer to really get a feel without actually touching and feeling of what that residential experience might be like for their next home.
Yeah, and all of those assets, pulled into marketing videos, which you're welcome to go view this if you want to. I won't play the whole thing on it. But then also into the sales center and part of the sales process. I'll jump over to a build. And so the sales team will get access to tools like this where they can freely navigate around the project. They can do things like change time of day in real time, which is really helpful to buyers because they want to know when their unit's going to get sun, things like that. And then drill down into specific residences where they can view a floor plan, of course, but better is just to jump right into that residence. And what the system does, it automatically finds the right view for this unit, puts us in it, and now we can go anywhere we want. One of the things we learned actually pretty early on is that you got to make it as absolutely simple in the sales process as possible. So we set up really easy navigation for the sales team. They can either navigate to different rooms or they can just double click and move through a unit. We can do things like pull up a floor plan, no matter where we are in the residence. It shows us where we are and what direction we're facing. And then when it comes to finish selections and upgrades and all of that, we put all of that in for them to be able to cycle through and show exactly what that's going to look like from every residence. We also do things like tying into a back-end cloud system where if any of the sales agents want to just take a render that they want to send to a buyer, they can do that really quickly from here, as well as emailing directly to buyers and say they're a good use case example is, a buyer is trying to decide if, I forget what floor I'm on here, what is 17? If it's really worth the extra 100 grand or whatever it is between the 17th floor and the 10th floor, and being able to show them in a real quick comparison, how much more water view they're going to get has been super, super powerful. Even changing time of day in those views as well has been really helpful. Often, and this is actually a good project to show it, often we are dealing with things like having to combine drone photography with Unreal environment at the same time, because like in this case, none of the pool or the lagoon that was down here, none of that was built yet. So we're sometimes using composure to bring real-world photography with Unreal Engine together to then export panorama, which we're then pulling back into the engine to load at runtime. So a lot of fun stuff happening there. And we're writing that ourselves. It's in Unreal, yeah. Yeah, we're writing all that in Unreal. Next bit I wanted to touch on is on experiential presentation tech, because there's so much movement in that space and so much stuff happening. One of the projects that Epic likes to show is one we did for Water Street Tampa, which was also the Tampa Edition residences, where we're using projection mapping and end display to show real-time data on a digital twin of the city, combined with a couple touch screens, a couple video walls, and even in early planning and consulting phases, we're using the engine to figure all of this sort of stuff out. So this is the space, the built space after it was finished, and this is our design model for testing the space and testing the experience. And we're using this both internally for our own team to figure out what works, and we're very often using VR in this process, just to see what feels good, what are good distances, get a little preview of how we think the tech might actually work, and it actually came pretty much one for one, other than the seats of how they use the space. And then circling back to Biscayne this was the Tampa edition, now the edition Edgewater. We're doing, for experiential tech here, we're doing a projection map scale model, but also a 360-degree projection room. So everything in there is a video surface. And again, we're probably going to be using end display again for the video, or for the walls and the scale model. And that is going to be a pretty fun space to be in when it's built, which is going to be December. So we'll have some video up on that soon.
And if you're in the Tampa market anytime soon, the hotel just recently opened, so check it out. The residences are sold out, unfortunately, so you don't have an opportunity there.